Seen on traffic camera footage, a glorious bald eagle lands in Minneapolis, Minnesota, a sign of what is to come. Gentlemen, ladies, Jews, Christians, and heathens, heretics of all, I am very excited to tell you, FAFO is happening in real time, and no one is ready for what is about to happen to Minneapolis, Minnesota. We got people getting arrested for breaking into churches. We got JD Vance dropping absolute fire on stage. We got the leftists starting a new hoax, claiming that ICE is kidnapping babies. I'll be real, we have a lot to talk about. Start your engines, people, because the glorious age of FAFO is here. So, it all started like so.
So, you know, Pam Bondi, you want to come and arrest me? You want to come and give me charges? So be it.
No! I can't believe this happened! I can't believe this happened! This is so sad. No. So you might recognize this retard. He went and broke into a church to harass people praying. All right, and then he was like, "Oh yeah, it's my First Amendment right. What are you gonna do?" Well, he's in jail. So anyway, it's pretty good times to be me. All right, it's really not good. So you might recognize him from this video.
As you can see, all these pretend Christians, all these comfortable white people who are living lavish, comfortable lives while children are dragged into concentration camps. You're living real life, nice lives with your lattes, doing absolutely nothing for your Latino and Somali brothers and sisters. You come here to a man wearing a suit. As a preacher, did Jesus wear a suit?
Did Jesus wear a suit? Dude, I absolutely love when not religious people that don't believe in anything tell religious people what their belief system is actually supposed to be about. I love when they do it. They always look retarded, especially because the first 5 books of the Bible are literally all laws. It's all justice. All right, dude? All right, you want to, like, get it? What would Jesus say? Well, I don't know, man. Jesus was of the belief that if people are having gay sex, they should be put to death. Okay, sorry, don't want to be rude here, but it's like, what do you want me to say? That is what it says in the Bible. Like, you could twist words as much as you want, but listen, man, this guy went to a learing center, so he probably doesn't know what's in the actual Bible. It's pretty crazy. So, you know, he starts harassing a lot of guys, and now he's in jail. This is what we call a glorious level of FAFO. He's not alone. In fact, Pam Bondi actually did have a rare Pam Bondi W. Breaking news, Nakima Levi Armstrong was arrested by the FBI for a role in the Minnesota church storming. FAFO, all right? This is the black woman in trouble. You know, she broke in. That's pretty good. She broke into a church, and now she's in jail. I know, it's pretty bad. She fucked around, and she leered her lesson. What could I say? So this is insane. So this is finally happening, because for the longest time, the leftoid media was doing their best to be like, no, actually, that's their First Amendment right. They're getting them under the KKK Act, by the way. For those of you that are unaware, they are getting hit by the Klan Act for harassing people's protected rights. And honestly, it's incredible stuff, like that these people are now part of the KKK. Now this is another person that charged the church. It's unbelievable. Fat black lesbians getting arrested for the KKK Act is absolute cinema. Unbelievable. Chantil Louisa Allen charged for conspiracy to deprive rights for her role in the St. Paul Church riots. Absolute cinema. Put them away. Now, Don Lemon is an ex-CNN anchor who supposedly was, who also broke into the church and also was harassing people in the church. Now, people are calling for his arrest too, because this person needs to go to jail, obviously. He broke into a church and he harassed people at a church. He violated the KKK Act. That's pretty shitty. Now, a federal magistrate judge in Minnesota rejected the DOJ's attempt to charge Don Lemon over his participation in the invasion of a church by anti-ICE protests. I am so tired of this judge bullshit. I am so tired. Hey, I'm a gay judge. I take it up the ass by my Somali brothers and sisters. I actually think you shouldn't arrest people for committing crimes. Unbelievable that we live in a clown show like this. Now, this is the judge, apparently. I'm told this is the judge that refused to sign the criminal complaint against Don Lemon. Magistrate Judge Douglas Miko. His wife works for Keith Ellison as an assistant attorney general and has anti-ICE posts on LinkedIn. So this is another activist judge. It's unbelievable how this keeps happening. Actually unbelievable. I am proud to help A.G. Ellison and the mayors protect the equal sovereignty of Minnesota. Dog, what is with sovereignty? This is like their new word. No, you can't kidnap a dictator. You cannot capture an El Presidente. You can't do it. What about the sovereignty? All right, dude. No, we can't buy Greenland. Sovereignty or something. Oh my God. The sovereignty of Minnesota and the safety of our residents by suing ICE, right? So obviously an activist judge, retard, lets Don Lemon off the hook. Now, Don Lemon, now that he's been off the hook, he's out there standing tall, sitting pretty, talking about all this bullshit.
Look, I stand proud and I stand tall. This is not a victory lap for me because it's not over. They're going to try again.
Hell yeah, they are! Jail this motherfucker.
They're going to try again. And guess what? Here I am. Keep trying. That's not going to stop me from being a journalist.
So he's trying to play up the tough guy act.
Going to diminish my voice. Go ahead, make me into the new Jimmy Kimmel if you want.
Okay.
Because I'm not going.
We should arrest everyone. Yes! Yes, arrest him and Jimmy. Okay, I don't know about arresting Jimmy Kimmel, but he should just be sued for slander for, for some of the shit that he's been saying.
Going anywhere, and I'm going to believe the same things, whether you want to. Whatever.
Yeah, we don't care what you believe, sir. You're just not allowed to break into churches and harass people at their places of worship. That's actually violating the FACE Act, and it actually is, apparently gonna be the KKK. Like, he's gonna get hit with the KKK shit, which is insane.
None of this is about justice.
No, actually, it is about justice. You're just retarded and gay.
This is about power, and it's about people who are incompetent.
Yeah. So understand what's going on here. The left, when they're in power, they do everything they possibly can to arrest every single right-wing person they can. They go after literally everyone. They try to arrest all of them. They use the special FBI bullshit to get every single person they possibly can in jail. All right? They've spent tens of millions of taxpayer dollars doing bullshit, bogus investigations. All right? You have to understand how insane it is that that this is being allowed to happen. All right? And that's when the left is in power. When the right is in power, these retards are just actually getting away with shit because the woke judges just run defense for all of them constantly. And something needs to be done. School board member Chantel Allen also arrested in a role for storming the church, which is pretty great. You'll have to see it. You'll have to see it. They got a lot of them. But here is the new hoax, all right? Because there's another shit that went down in Minnesota. Before we watch the actual J.D. Vance video, we have to understand this. Yeah, no, we absolutely need the Insurrection Act. There's a problem here in the government. The bureaucracy is working on overtime, to prevent Trump from actually doing justice. And it's insane. It's absolute insanity. These people need to go. These people need to go. We need law and order. They're not willing to play our game. We need to put the Insurrection Act in place. Trump was elected by the majority of the American people. We need to fuck these people. Like, we actually need to arrest them en masse. And I mean hundreds, if not thousands of arrests. Because we cannot live in a society where if the left wins, they arrest all the right-wing people. And if the right wins, well, and then there's riots and protests and the right can't do anything. And then they just shit on our entire country in order for the left to win again. Because they're, look at all the disorder that went down during right-wing presidency. Which is why we actually need to put our foot down. All right? I wish Trump was 1% of the authoritarian that the left thinks that he actually is. Anyway, so Kamala Harris tweets, Liam Ramos is just a baby. He should have been home with his family, not used as bait by ICE and held in the Texas detention center. I am outraged and you should too. This is Liam Ramos, a 5-year-old baby, captured and kidnapped by ICE. Look at this. Look how ICE captured and kidnapped a baby. Anyway, I thought this was a pretty good meme. So Kamala Harris was in charge of the border, by the way, under the Biden administration. So 500,000 migrant children go missing under Biden. What? I can't see anything. Child in ICE custody after fugitive dad abandons him. The Democrats, oh my God, kidnapping babies. It's honestly incredible. It really is. Dude, I love how leftist ideology is just infinite child abuse. All right. Biden ran defense for Epstein for 4 years. Never let them forget it. All right. He ran defense for Epstein. That's important to note. All right. 500,000 migrant children go missing at the border. All right. You get chop the balls off children. Fucking abort all your children. Don't get married. Get divorced, actually. That's better. Ruin the lives of your children as much as you can. All right. So they're all doing this. All right, it's the party of child abuse. And then they're like, but what about the children in Gaza? What about this child in ICE custody? And then they'll latch on to the dead children and the abused children that they can in order to use them for their thing. That's why the craziest part is the fact that these retards, like these absolute retards, are doing their best to make believe they care about Epstein right now. All right, I do care about Epstein. I want this Epstein shit done. I want every single person that raped a kid to go to jail. All right, I really do. I don't care, right, left, get them out. All right, but now they all care about that. After 4 years of silence, now they all say, oh, the Trump's the pedophile protector, after they protected pedophiles for 4 years. It's just unbelievable, to be honest. So, anywho, that was Kamala Harris. It got worse. AOC repeated the same lie again, and I'm going to show you the truth. I'm going to show you what actually happened.
But you obviously believe ICE should be abolished, but there are many in your party who are not.
What does that even mean, abolish ICE? The crazy thing is, what does this even mean, abolish ICE? Like, ICE is just immigration enforcement. Like, we need borders if we want a country.
Going that far, is that a problem for you?
I think any step in the direction of reining in and cutting the funding of an agency that is attacking U.S. citizens, that—
Dog, the U.S. citizens are attacking them. Holy shit. It's unbelievable watching these people do this. It's unbelievable.
are kidnapping 5-year-olds, that are—
They're not kidnapping 5-year-olds. Like, these people are like actual propaganda shit machines. It's unbelievable.
using them as bait to open doors, and that are privately circulating that they can violate everyday Americans' constitutional rights by busting into their doors. They deserve to be defunded.
If they have a warrant, then they could, and it's not violating anyone's constitutional right. So anyway, these people are insane. They repeat the ICE kidnapped a 5-year-old. They keep doing this. This is like how the left operates every single time. You know, they see something, they completely and utterly manipulate the story. They all get on the news and on the media, and they start screaming about a complete and utter fake thing that happened, and they never face any responsibility for it. And the leftoid retards that can't fucking read, all right, that get their that get their opinions from the experts that say that men could get pregnant, all right, those guys are like, holy shit, they're kidnapping ICE.
So now ICE is using a 5-year-old boy. A 5-year-old boy. They took him and used him to lure his father out. And now
his father abandoned him, running away from ICE. Like, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen.
Detain them both. The family doesn't know where they—
Detain them both. Dog, if we deport them with their children, that's a bad thing because you're deporting children. If you deport them without their children, then that's a bad thing because you're separating families. Well, welcome to the left. Let them come into your country, let them rape you, and you can't do anything about it.
are. This is the worst of the damn worst. This is not humanity in Minnesota, folks.
It's not humanity in Minnesota. Where's your humanity? When you see this, do you see humanity? I don't. I see people they're breaking into our country, raping our land, and we're doing something about it. That's unacceptable.
If you
There are voters, god damn it.
can look at this 5-year-old
Oh my god.
and actually with a straight face
Okay.
still support and be silent
Okay.
in the face of what the Trump administration and Kristi Noem is doing.
Okay. With a straight face. I don't support what Kristi Noem and Donald Trump is doing with ICE because I personally think they should be going 1,000 times fucking harder, baby. They should be rounding them up. I'm talking snipers with tranq darts on rooftops. Every illegal, immediately in a van. Immediately. Get them all out. So no, I don't support ICE in as much as I think they should be doing more. Yeah.
I just can't even believe this is America.
Me neither. I cannot believe we have people, think about how insane this is. We have people breaking into our country, all right? Straight up, breaking into our country, raping our land, taking our taxpayer dollars, all right? I'm not even exaggerating. And these people in government are defending them. It is honestly the most treasonous shit in the universe, and we are normalizing it to such insane extent.
I will not vote for a damn penny to Kristi Noem or ICE in this Congress. This is a time where we should all be outraged.
I am outraged. I am absolutely outraged that the left let millions of people invade our country. I am very outraged, actually. This is the great. All the women that were actually raped by people that broke into the country illegally. All right, all the people that broke into the country illegally, that raped women, that abused children. I am angry for all of those people. This is the craziest shit in the world. All right, she would be in Attack on Titan protesting letting the Titans into Wall Maria. Like, this is the bullshit that we're dealing with. It's unbelievable. You want to know something? I have a very moderate position. Deport every single illegal alien in the entire country. All right? Okay? You have an extreme position, which is let in retards and rapists into our country to steal our money and rape our women. All right? I'm sorry, man. I have the moderate position. You're the radical.
This doesn't pierce through your humanity as a Republican.
It does pierce through my humanity. This poor kid that has a father that invaded a sovereign nation. This poor kid, because his father is a piece of shit criminal that's getting deported. Absolutely. And if that father would have self-deported and gone with his child, he wouldn't need to go through any of this. So instead of the left sitting there talking about how ICE shouldn't actually enforce the law, I think the left should talk about how every person that's illegal in the country should self-deport immediately, or they're going to get thrown in alligator Alcatraz. That's my opinion. So anyway, so that's what the left has been doing. They've been pushing this. The Democrats. Minneapolis, ICE arrested a 5-year-old coming home from preschool, tried to use him as human bait. Teacher describes him as a bright young student. These monsters are sick. He was a bright young student. He was bright and young. Ilhan Omar, ICE detained a 5-year-old child. Don't tell us this is the worst and the worst. That's a lie. So they all push this narrative. The reality is ICE did not target a child. The child was abandoned. January 20, ICE conducted a target operation to arrest Adrian Alexandro Corneo Arias, an illegal alien from Ecuador who was released into the United States by the Biden administration. The reason why this kid was detained by ICE was because of Biden letting illegals rape our land. As agents approached, the driver, Adrian Alexander Corneo Arias, fled on foot, abandoning the child. For the child's safety, one of our ICE officers remained with the child while the other officers apprehended Corneo Arias. Understand how insane this is, man. Understand the actual insanity. This is an illegal alien that abandoned his child. ICE had an agent stay with the kid, instead of leaving a 5-year-old kid alone in the snow. This is the craziest thing I've ever seen. And the left is running defense for the guy that abandoned his child and not the federal officers that were doing their duty by arresting this illegal alien that protected the child. Actual insanity. Parents are asked if they want to be removed with their children, or ICE will place the children with a safe person the parent designates. This is consistent with the past administration's illegal enforcement, immigration enforcement. Parents can take control of their departure and receive a free flight and $2,600 with the CBP Home app. By using the CBP Home app, illegal aliens reserve the chance to come back the legal right way. Now, to be clear, every single illegal alien can self-deport. Every single one of them can self-deport. They could leave themselves and get a free trip and money. And every single leftist that's telling the illegal aliens to stay in the country, quite literally, are making them targets for ICE because they could leave themselves. Absolute insanity. It's crazy world. It really is. Now, libtards are finally getting arrested for their threats, which is really nice to see. Justin Novoa was arrested in Columbus, Ohio for threatening to kill ICE agents. He allegedly wrote on X, "Can't wait to shoot these pussy ICE agents and retarded MAGA maggots." And he's in jail. So I'm really happy this is actually finally happening, where we are taking actual death threats, which, by the way, is not protected by the First Amendment, because I'm sure all the leftoids are running defense for this guy now. The reality is, we do not need to live like this, and I'm happy finally things are actually happening. Breaking news: illegal alien charged with raping an autistic 14-year-old girl in California. Enrique Bautista Vasquez allegedly lured the girl into his apartment New Year's Eve and raped her. He also had fraudulent Social Security and permanent resident cards. This is who New Scum is harboring. All right. So the reality is, you're not the party that is protecting children. When you run defense for the illegals that you're bringing into the country, quite literally, you are the ones causing this shit to happen. Just to make it clear, I'm sorry. Deporting these pieces of shit is the moderate position. Letting them come into your land and rape you is the radical position. You're the radicals. To be clear, this is another giant hoax that they're pushing. I have to show all this to you to give you context for the Vance speech. A Minnesota family says 3 of their children, including a 6-month-old, transported to the hospital after federal agents reportedly fired tear gas at their vehicle. I talked about this before. Shri Thanagar, this is a congressman who, God knows, God knows how this dude was ever elected. He doesn't even speak English. A baby was hospitalized after being tear gassed by ICE. The family was not illegal, not even protesting, just driving home from their son's basketball game. This can't be reformed. Time to abolish ICE. So here we have a foreigner. Literally, here we have a foreigner that came into our country, all right, somehow had office, probably because he got votes from other foreigners that are in our country, and now he's talking about abolishing immigration enforcement, probably so he could get more retards in the country that could keep voting for him. This is the giant fraud. This poor baby, tear gas. They were just driving home. I can't believe ICE would do such a thing. Anyway, so first of all, you're probably wondering, why was this family driving? All right, because they say that they were driving, right? They were driving home. A baby hospitalized after being tear gassed by ICE, right? This is after they were driving home. So why would these people be driving home with their windows down through a riot? That's pretty weird. Yeah, Sri Thanadar also is a guy that voted against a bill to deport illegal aliens that were rapists, specifically. Like, he wants to keep the illegal alien rapists specifically in the country. It's pretty awesome. Now, anyway, get ready. Get ready. You were lied to. Remember the sob story about the family with a baby getting tear gassed in North Minneapolis riot last Wednesday? Well, they said they were just passing through the area on their way home from the Suns basketball game. Oopsie poopsie, they were in the riot. Oops, that sucks, man. They were actually part of the riot. Yikes. Yeah.
Chemical gas, flashbangs, and fireworks.
All right, so this is the riot with the flashbangs and the fireworks. This is them crying about it. They were secretly driving home from their son's basketball game. Except, oopsie poopsie, no, they weren't. They literally went to a violent riot with a human shield. They are really learning. They're in the Palestine Learing Center, ladies and gentlemen. They're learning from their Hamas homies exactly why we should be keeping as many child human shields as possible. Because it makes Congress people get viral tweets. Look at this guy. 100,000 tweets from Sri Thanadar over here talking about how this baby was hospitalized. So here you have the Liberal Party talking about how ICE is gassing children, all right, and kidnapping children. The reality is you have illegal aliens abandoning their children, and you have terrible Democrat parents taking their children to violent riots. All right. So this is not a right-wing issue. This is a left-wing issue. You people care about fucking criminals and child abusers so much more than you actually care about justice. It's actually insane. Complete insanity. Like, dude, we got Asmongold over here making death threats.
To any ICE agent that thinks they're going to come into my home and terrorize me and my family, you will be met with lethal force.
Asmon, what are you doing, Asmongold?
I will kill on sight. And
holy shit, Asmongold. Anyway, so it's been pretty hairy out there. Now, Minnesota is truly falling apart in a very, 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 very fast level. And it's honestly incredible. So Amy Bach, so for those of you that are unaware, there was a $200 million Somali fraud scandal with the Feeding the Future, Feeding the Children campaign. All right, 89% of them were Somali. The person in charge was a white woman. Now, this makes sense because she is the 100 IQ mastermind, commanding and moving the pieces around for the 67 IQ retards to do all the fraud. So anyway, she basically just completely threw some retards under the bus.
Ringleader of the $250 million Minnesota welfare fraud scandal, telling Fox News she believes the state leaders knew taxpayer money was being stolen and did nothing to stop it.
Oh my, the state leaders knew about this.
I guess, how high up do you think the message went that there was fraud? Like, do you think it made its way to the governor's office?
I struggle to believe it didn't.
So that's pretty weird. Anyway, let's see what Tim Walz has to say about this.
Friends that come to see God, thank you for coming out.
Is this Tim Walz standing in his little private gated community telling people to go and harass people?
Nicole, but more importantly, thank you for standing up for me.
Yep, so that's Tim Walz telling people to keep rioting, guys. Keep rioting while I sit here in my gated community.
Thank you for standing up for our neighbors who don't have a fence and don't have...
We have to stand up for people that don't have fences, says Tim Walz. Look, man, I am, like, dude, the only one shocked by all of this is Kaya, to be clear. No one fucking cares. This is incredible. It really is. And they keep trying their absolute best to make believe they care about the little man. So J.D. Vance gives a speech, and libs in Minnesota are currently standing around trying to make noise outside of Vance's hotel because they're trying to keep Vance awake. So this is free speech, guys. It's the free speech guys coming here to harass people. And in my opinion, this violates the noise ordinance, metrics of the city. You're not allowed to actually make a ton of noise at night, all right? So they go to this hotel that JD Vance was staying at and just make an absolute ruckus outside. That's the left. Pots and pans and all sorts of trumpets and trombones, showing up there just basically to annoy people. I think that these people need to be given noise complaints, and if they refuse to comply, they should go to jail, because you're not actually allowed to do this. Again, there are laws, and we need to enforce laws, or the laws just continue to not get enforced, and it just gets worse. So I fully believe they should be given noise complaints, and if they continue to harass people with their noise at night, trank darts. That's what I think. I think we should start trank darting them. I'm sure a couple of agents would have a good time sitting on a rooftop shooting trank darts into the crowd. I personally think it would be amazing. It would be like they would all cosplay. You don't understand. They would all cosplay like they were people from Gondor fighting back against the orcs. All right, they would dress in the full Gondor robes and just start shooting trank darts into the people. It would be incredible. Anyway, drugging people into compliance. No, yeah, just shutting them up if they break the law. If they break the law and we need to shut them up, we shut them up. Absolutely. Anyway, yeah, that's fascism. Yeah, I don't care. Anyway, so I don't care what you call it. You don't understand. I don't care what you have to call anything, actually. I don't give a shit what you call it, Margaret. Anyway, anywho, JD Vance, I forgot to tell you the funny part. JD Vance wasn't there. JD Vance landed in D.C. 5 hours ago. They were protesting outside of JD Vance's hotel room, but he wasn't there. They just literally were So I forgot to tell you that these people are not only annoying, but they're also useless. Your words mean nothing. No, your words mean nothing. Demons use words to try to manipulate you. Demons should not be trusted. So anyway, so these were the remarks he gave in Minnesota, and honestly, it was incredible. I didn't see it, but I've heard it was amazing.
Good afternoon, everybody. How we doing?
Hello, Mr. Vice President.
Good. So I want to thank the law enforcement officers behind me for being here. I'll answer a few questions, but I want to say just a few things at the outset, just about what I've learned today and what I'm trying to do here. First of all, I want to give a shout out to the Annunciation school shooting families, because the last time I was in Minneapolis, it was the first to meet with some of those families. I understand that a couple of the students have made near miraculous recoveries, and
Thank God.
That was a very special moment for me to be invited into that community at a time of grief, and I hope that all of them know.
For those of you that don't remember, that was when a trans guy decided to show up at a school and start just shooting Christian kids. For those of you that don't remember the lore, I got you. No one talks about that. Everyone talks about how the ICE agents are bad, not the trans people that shoot up schools, obviously, because that would be probably transphobic or something.
Though I didn't get to see them this particular time, I've been thinking about them and their families quite a bit. Now, to talk about what I am here to do, which is federal law enforcement, to enforce our immigration laws, I want to say just a few things. First of all, I wanted to meet with business leaders, with ICE officers, with local law enforcement to try to understand a little bit better what's going on, so that we can tone down the temperature a little bit, reduce the chaos, but still allow us as a federal government to enforce the American people's immigration laws. That is the purpose of my visit. Now, this is step one or step two of that process. There's going to be a lot of work that follows through from here. I'm happy to talk about that, but I think I learned a few things that were very important. So number one of the things I learned is that the guys behind me are doing an incredible job, and frankly, a lot of the media is lying about the job that they do every single day. Now, it doesn't mean that there aren't occasionally stories out there, there aren't occasionally videos out there that suggest that these guys, or at least some of the people who work for them, are not doing everything right. But very often, if you look at the context of what's going on, you understand that these people are under an incredible amount of duress, an incredible amount of chaos, and because of a few very far left agitators, a lot of these guys are unable to do their job without being harassed.
They got to get these guys out of there.
Sometimes without being assaulted. That's totally unacceptable. And that's one of the things that I want to send a message to is, yes, come out and protest me, protest our immigration policy, but do it peacefully.
That's
if
right.
you assault a law enforcement officer,
jail.
The Trump administration and the Department of Justice is going to prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law. And I wanted to show some support for these guys who, frankly, are operating in a very, very tough environment. I heard a lot of stories today about that I think drives home just how chaotic the environment on the ground here has already gotten. For example, did you know that within the last, I think, week or so, maybe even more recently than that, you had a couple of ICE officers who were off duty, who had been doxxed online, who were sitting and having a meal at a restaurant in Minneapolis when a bunch of agitators showed up, locked the door, made them feel like they were in danger for their lives, and then, of course, it was federal law enforcement officers who had to come up, lower the temperature on the situation, and actually get those two off-duty officers to a point of safety.
Yeah, I love how people think that it's a being anti-ICE. This is going to be a really controversial opinion, probably. So there are a lot of valid stances that you could have in politics, of course. A lot of valid stances. Everyone has the right to an opinion. Being anti-ICE is, in my opinion, obviously an ideology. You can have whatever ideology you want. I don't care if you're retarded. But doing anything about it is literally violating the country's laws. It's actually unbelievable levels of retards that we need to do. You know, we need to deal with like infinite idiots that think it's a valid stance to harass ICE agents. Harassing ICE agents is the same as harassing literally anybody else. All right, this guy is doing his duty, which in my opinion is a good duty, and I think that all the people calling them Gestapo should get sued for slander. The Gestapo was a Nazi police force that kidnapped and arrested people for no reason. ICE is literally doing their job, and the protesters, in my opinion, are contributing to run defense for the criminals. All right, and in my opinion, they're terrorists. They're actually terrorists that are running defense and obstructing justice to be done specifically against these people that invaded our country illegally and are raping our land. So in my opinion, all these guys should go to jail. Every single person that, in my opinion, blocks an ICE agent from doing their thing, they should immediately get arrested. Immediately. You block a road, immediate jail, obstruction of justice, aiding and abetting a terrorist. Literally, I don't have any sympathy for these people at all, actually. And I don't think we should even be treating this as even a remotely appropriate position. Donald Trump was the elected president of the United States by the majority of the country in this constitutional republic that we all share. He was elected on the mandate to deport the illegals, and he should be deporting the illegals. And ICE's job is to deport the illegals. And any single person that defends the illegals against ICE by actually, not just through words, I'm not talking about through words, speech is okay, but mobbing them, surrounding them, blocking their cars, stuff like that, I think they should all go to jail for abetting terrorists. Apparently Vance cooks even harder. But anyway, this isn't like a both sides issue. Your perspective is unfortunately the terrorist perspective.
Now imagine, if you would, your life...
Someone in my chat just said, oh, dude, I love these people. They're awesome. All these people crash out constantly. It's incredible. Mexicans are native here, you dirty illegal. All right, dude. Yeah, some Mexicans are native here, I guess. Sort of. Not native, but, they're citizens. Some are illegal, and they all need to leave.
And your perspective on law enforcement, if you can't even go to a restaurant without some agitators locking the door and making you feel like your life is in danger. That is the environment that has been created, I think, by a lot of very, frankly, far-left people, but also by some of the state and local law enforcement officials who could do a much better job in cooperating and working. And by the way, I'm not talking about the cops, who these guys told me on the ground, the cops are very sympathetic to what they're dealing with. I'm talking about the state and local elected law enforcement officials who could do a lot better job in making their lives a little bit easier. And in the process, they would make the lives of all Minneapolis residents easier, and that's what we want. We want to be able to enforce the immigration laws on the one hand, while on the other hand, we want to make sure that people in Minneapolis are able to go about their day. And I want to say just one last point on this. So
makes sense.
I heard from a business leader today who told me a very tough story. And
Trump immigrated from Europe legally. I have a lot of retards in my chat today. It's honestly incredible. He immigrated legally. All right, ICE's job is to deport every single illegal alien. All right, then we'll worry about denaturalizing the Somalis. Okay, don't worry, guys. Don't worry. Just like your parents. No, my parents were born in America, but nice try. I appreciate it.
I think so much of what's gone wrong in Minneapolis is people not trying to understand the perspective of somebody else, Try to understand what somebody else is experiencing, whether they're a law enforcement officer or anybody in the community here in Minneapolis. So they told me a story about this manufacturing facility where an illegal immigrant was being arrested. And as these employees are going into the manufacturing facility, all of a sudden an illegal immigrant shows up. They don't know it's an illegal immigrant. And then a bunch of ICE officers descend. Now, these people just want to go to work. They want to go to work safely. Yep. And now, all of a sudden, there's a major law enforcement operation happening right outside their place of business. Now, from one perspective, I certainly understand why a business leader or why an employee would say, whoa, what's going on? It's a little scary, no matter your position in life, if a bunch of cop cars show up and they're arresting somebody. Now, the additional context is that we know that people online have been encouraging illegal immigrants that one way they can evade arrest is by showing up at a legitimate place of business, making it impossible for these guys to actually enforce our immigration laws. So while I can understand the perspective of somebody who doesn't want to see an arrest happen at their place of work, I can also understand the perspective of our immigration enforcement officers who have to do their job and can't allow a heckler's veto over our immigration enforcement. And so much of what's gone wrong is the failure to do that. And here's the point. We can do a good job of enforcing our immigration laws without the chaos, but it actually requires the cooperation of state and local officials. If you look at blue cities and blue states, red cities and red states, you go to Austin, Texas, or Memphis, Tennessee. You go to the state of Texas, obviously a very red state, or the state of Tennessee, a very red state, but you've got blue cities within those states. You do not have this level of chaos. The reason why things have gotten so out of hand is because of failure of cooperation between the state and local authorities and what these guys are trying to do. We have a ton of resources, a ton of ICE agents in this city right now that I would rather us not have. I'd love to send those guys home.
It's so crazy how we're even considering this as a valid perspective, all right? The government is funding ICE to deport the illegals. My taxpayer dollars are going to fund ICE to deport the illegals, as it should, all right? You know, because we had an election and Trump won the election. You remember when that happened? Because it happened. He won 3 elections, and all these people are crying. I'm kidding. He only won 2 elections officially, and another election that there was some fraud, but we don't know. We don't know what happened, all right, in that other one. Who knows? Anywho, kidding. But the reality is, and this is pretty funny in my opinion, these people think that they have a leg to stand on when they prevent law enforcement from doing their job. All right, it's honestly hilarious to think about how much money, all right, goes to waste because we are funding ICE fighting with the retards, preventing them from doing their job, all right? Every person that's blocking an ICE agent is not just aiding and abetting a terrorist. They are literally burning our tax dollars. They are taking our tax dollars and lighting them on fire, just like everything else in Minnesota.
They're not even doing targeted immigration enforcement. They are trying to protect ICE officers who are doing immigration enforcement because when a crowd surrounds them and these guys call 911, the local officials, the local cops have been told to stand down. So we have people here who aren't even doing immigration enforcement. They're doing force protection.
That's the craziest thing. Because the rioters think that everyone is ICE, and for whatever reason, the Democrats, who in my opinion are contributing to this terrorist movement in the United States, all right, literally to stop ICE, now they just stop everyone. They stop literally everyone, dude. They've been running defense for actual rapists and violent people because they think that ICE is going after them. As if that's an excuse.
Tries to ruin the life or assault an ICE officer, they're actually protected. Now, why doesn't it make more sense for the local cops to get involved in that situation? Why not just have the mayor or the local officials tell the police officers, you know what? If an ICE officer is being assaulted by a far-left agitator, you are invited. You should actually help them. That's what would work.
Yeah. So if a fat lesbian retard decides to run over an ICE officer with her car because the last 3 times she tried to do it, she wasn't arrested, maybe she's going to get shot in self-defense. That would be pretty terrible. So we need to get all the actual local police arresting these violent people, obviously. I don't know, man. Again, I told you, Nux say something bad about Trump. Dude, it's unbelievable, man. I'm being raided from somewhere where these people are popping into my chat, crashing out today. But I will tell you something bad about Trump. Trump isn't deporting enough retards. That's right. I'm sorry. And I don't care how many kamikaze Karens are committing suicide by cop. All the illegals need to go. Sorry. Get them all out. And everyone stopping that from happening is a terrorist in my book. Doubling down. Yeah, we're doubling. Of course we're doubling down.
Work out in any normal situation, and that's what happens in nearly every jurisdiction, red or blue, in the United States of America.
It's irrelevant. We are a country. The country has fucking laws. They need to be upheld. If you refuse to uphold the laws, you gotta fucking go to jail. That's why we have laws. It's that simple. It's that simple. We cannot function like Europe. All right? We don't need to commit suicide. All right, for our illegal alien issue. Sorry.
What happened here is because
That's
the
why
local
Trump is
authorities
president.
have been told, stand down, do not help ICE, promote the violence, promote the agitation, but don't do anything to lower the temperature and lower the chaos. That's a problem. Here's another example of how the lack of cooperation between state and local officials makes it harder for us to do our job and turns up the temperature. Let's say, for example, we have a criminal migrant who is a sex offender. And let's say that we've got to go and arrest that person who, Democrat or Republican, wants a sex offender living in their community. I would assume, I would hope that most people don't.
Yeah, it makes sense.
But because there
Well,
are...
that's not true. Some people believe in multiculturalism where you bring people in from rape countries. Oh, you're not familiar with rape countries? I go harder. The more retards I have in my chat, the less I'm interested in backing down. I don't know if you're aware. I don't know if you've heard the news. The more retards that show up, the worse I get. Rape countries are countries where rape was legal within the last 10 years, like Yemen and Somalia. All right? Those are rape countries. All right? Now, I do not believe in importing people from rape countries, personally, because, for example, in Egypt, did you know that Egypt has a 99.3% rape rate, where 99.3% of Egyptian women claim that they were raped? All right? I personally do not want those people in my country. Hot take. So the reality is, the left does want that. The left wants to bring in the rape country people. They do. They're doing their best. They make believe that all cultures are actually the same. So they do want to bring in the rape people and put them in our communities and then be like, actually, ICE, you should not be able to deport them for being illegal in the country. You have to keep letting them rape us.
Illegal alien, we don't know their last address. We may have known their address 3 years ago, but we don't know their address now.
Yeah, because Biden ran defense for these guys, which in my opinion was treason. And I really wish that some actual officials would get arrested too.
What we'd like to do is talk to local officials and say, you know what, according to the Medicaid rolls, where was the last address this person was domiciled? Or according to a SNAP application, a food stamps application, maybe that could give us insight to where this person is today.
Isn't it fascinating that these people have food stamps applications? You know what that means? That means that we are paying taxes and our tax dollars are going to people that broke into our country illegally to take our money for food. Understand?
Or maybe they had some local court trouble. We could go to the local courthouse or even the local jail and try to find where this criminal sex offender is today. The local authorities have been told, do not cooperate. So these guys are trying to go out and enforce the law. They're trying to arrest sex offenders, but they're trying to do it in an environment where local officials have been told, do not help them, do not provide intelligence about where these sex offenders might be. This is disgraceful. And there are a lot of things that all of us could do better to lower the temperature, but the number one thing that I learned today is that the best way to facilitate reasonable enforcement of the law, but also to lower the chaos in Minneapolis, would be for state and local officials to cooperate. Now, I will say, on one final positive note, I actually think that there's some hope, some reason to think that there's going to be better cooperation in the weeks and months to come.
Oh, boy.
I think that because I've talked to some of the local officials
Oh,
here.
boy, we're turning the local officials against their woke governments now? Oh, my.
I think there are reasons to believe that these people are going to step up and actually
I mean, I don't know if you heard the news, but, like, apparently 36 police officers actually quit from the local Minneapolis PD and became ICE officers. I don't know if you heard the news.
The cops to protect our ICE.
Yeah, people that actually like America and think that America should be following the rule of law are actually all on board with this. You might not know that, but it's actually, Trump is actually the president of the United States.
Officers, when they're being assaulted, who are going to ask the local courts to cooperate with getting criminal sex offenders out of our community. That's a good thing. That's the good news, and that's something I'm going to work on when I get back to Washington. But please, if you're a local official, if you're the mayor of this town, if you have any influence over those people, just tell them to cooperate.
That's right.
Because we could have immigration enforcement operate as smoothly and without the chaos that we see in Austin, Texas, and Memphis, Tennessee.
All the riots, by the way, all the riots, all the people screaming and yelling and crying in the streets, claiming that ICE is being violent. ICE would be a lot less violent if y'all fucking just followed the law. If y'all just let ICE do their job. So quite literally, fuck all these people. And I think, in my opinion, all these guys are worse. All right? They're so much worse than any of the things that they're making believe they care about. And I'm just tired. I'm just tired of them. I'm tired of them. Absolutely. Yep. I don't care how many kamikaze Karens we have to get through. They keep deciding to run over ICE agents. Unfortunately, they're going to keep finding out.
Or even rural parts of the state of Minnesota.
By the way, the idea that an entire mob of anti-ICE people would break into a church and harass people praying at a church, in my opinion, is so far gone. It is so beyond the pale. It's insane. I can't believe it happened. I actually can't believe it happened. That's the crazy part. Like, where's the humanity for that side? Everyone's like, where's the humanity? ICE arrested a 5-year-old that was abandoned by his father, an illegal alien. But, like, it's actually insane that we live in a society where people think that's appropriate, and the left all came to the defense of the violent, illegal alien defenders breaking into churches.
All we need is a little cooperation. I guarantee we're going to do the best to be professional, to respect people's rights, to not do anything that we don't have to do in order to enforce immigration laws, but it would make our lives a lot easier, it would make our officers a lot safer, and it would make Minneapolis much less chaotic if we had a little bit of cooperation from the state and local officials. With that, I'll shut up and take some questions. Thank you, guys.
Vice President Vance, a local school district here is alleging ICE agents detaining a 5-year-old.
Oh my God! The first question is the 5-year-old child hoax.
Okay. We've also seen multiple American citizens detained by ICE or harassed by ICE in the last 6 months.
ICE, okay, dude, there's a huge lie that a lot of people on the left literally like peddling in. ICE is kidnapping legal Americans. Yeah, legal Americans that are violent against ICE. Legal Americans that are obstructing justice and aiding and abetting terrorism. All right? Legal Americans that commit crimes. That's why I'm so tired of this entire garbage. I'm actually so tired of it. So the reality is, ICE is allowed to detain legal Americans that commit crimes. All right? Like it's such a lie when they say, ICE is now going after Americans. Yeah, the criminals.
Are you proud of how your administration...
Are you proud of ICE when they kidnap 5-year-olds? The most loaded question of all time. This is why the media needs to be defunded too. There should be 0 of my tax dollars going to the media.
...is conducting this immigration crackdown here in Minnesota right now.
Well, I'm proud of the fact that we're standing behind law enforcement, and I'm proud of the fact that we're enforcing the country's laws. But you asked a question about this 5-year-old kid. I actually saw this terrible story while I was coming to Minneapolis. We had just left Toledo, Ohio this morning for an economic messaging event. And I see this story, and I'm a father of a 5-year-old, actually, a 5-year-old little boy. And I think to myself, oh my God, this is terrible. How did we arrest a 5-year-old? Well, I do a little bit more follow-up research. And what I find is that the 5-year-old was not arrested, that his dad was an illegal alien. And then when they went to arrest his illegal alien father, the father ran.
Yeah.
So the story is...
The dad literally abandoned his 5-year-old boy. Literally abandoned his child to run away from ICE. Yes, I am proud that ICE agents took care of the 5-year-old that was abandoned by his piece of shit dad that should have self-deported, or better yet, not invaded our country in the first place. Absolutely, I'm proud of ICE. Unbelievable. I'm just waiting for the next reporter. Oh, Mr. Vance, when did you stop beating your wife? Like, dude, this is the level of bullshit questions that we're getting.
That ICE detained a 5-year-old. Well, what are they supposed to do? Are they supposed to let a 5-year-old child freeze to death? Are they not supposed to arrest an illegal...
Mr. Vance, how many times have you raped your own grandmother? Like, bro! And then they just cut out the answer.
Alien in the United States of America. If the argument is that you can't arrest people who have violated our laws because they have children, then every single...
That's the craziest thing ever, all right? If someone's a drunk driver, you put them in jail, all right? Oh my God, but what if they have a kid? Then they shouldn't have been a drunk fucking driver, and they should have taken care of their child. Like, I am literally watching the left in America use Hamas tactics and human shields, taking children and using them as human shields. It is the most unbelievable thing of all time. It's crazy watching them straight up take pages out of the Hamas cookbook. It's unbelievable, honestly. It's literally shocking.
Parent is going to be...
All right, you want to see what I'm talking about? All right, so this is a debate about Hamas using human shields. All right, this was a debate that just happened, actually. All right, so watch this, man.
Report, okay? So can everyone see?
All right, so this is a Hamas terrorist loading his rocket to fire it with a bunch of children right behind the rocket launcher.
Okay, great. Let's play.
This was, by the way, a rocket being fired into an Israeli civilian city. So he loads the rocket. What is he doing right now, he's looking at the kids.
By the way.
All right.
He's loading the rocket.
Okay, he's loading it. Okay, yeah. Where are the children?
They're positioned in the weird way behind the rocket.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Now, if you were a combatant, and let's say these are your children, or your cousin's children, or your brother's children, would you make sure those kids run inside or run away before you do this?
I would think, right? Because you realize after this rocket fires, Israel is definitely going to strike the location of where they're, shooting missiles into their cities, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So why isn't he doing that?
Who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows? So here he is. He loads the rocket, and he runs away. And he leaves the children by the rocket.
So he runs away, and where are the kids?
They're what, maybe 40, 50 feet away?
They're not 40 feet away. Anyway.
These are stationary, correct?
They're 10 feet away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So why does he run away and the kids stay put? Typically when kids see adults run, especially very rapidly and quick like that, they would also run. These kids are being told to stay stationary, dude.
Yeah. You know why? So when Israel strikes the rocket launcher, all right, the place that's shooting rockets into their cities, which is completely valid. Why wouldn't Israel want to shoot the rocket launcher? Look at all the children that Israel is going to be killing. This is what the left is doing right now. So that, by the way, that's why Hamas are called terrorists, because they literally take children and put them near the locations of their rocket launchers to let them get killed so they can use their corpses as propaganda. All right? Let's understand what's going on. All right? This is what the left is doing. This is what the left is doing right now. They're taking babies to riots and babies to protests. They're abandoning 5-year-old children so that illegal aliens can run away. ICE will detain the child, obviously, instead of leave the child in the street. And then they'll say, look at ICE kidnapping children. They are literally using Hamas terrorist tactics.
Completely given immunity from ever being the subject of law enforcement. That doesn't make any sense. No.
Obviously not. Complete and utter insanity.
No one thinks that makes any sense.
Oh, I have a kid. You can't arrest me now because it'll be separating me from my child. Great argument, sir.
Now, there are so many of these cases like that where if you just understand the context, there have been a number of situations that I've looked into personally where I say, wait a second. We don't want ICE arresting American citizens. They're supposed to be enforcing the immigration laws against illegal aliens.
Why are they arresting Americans?
So then I look into it, and I find out that the American citizen who was arrested took a swing at an ICE officer.
That's right, babe.
You can't have that happen.
Get him in jail.
And of course they have to defend themselves.
Duh.
And of course they have the right to detain somebody who assaults a law enforcement officer. Now, this is my point. Do we want these things to happen? Do we want these arrests to be so chaotic? No, we don't. These guys want it least of all, but if we had a little cooperation from local and from local and state officials, I think the chaos would go
They're separating ICE from their children. Aborts 27% of their generation.
Way down in this community.
President!
Go ahead.
After the Renee Good shooting, sir, the administration seemed to...
Yeah, well, you can go next.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. I'll take both.
After the Renee Good shooting, sir, the administration seemed to... After the Renee Good shooting, the administration seemed to suggest that ICE officers enjoyed near complete immunity, but today...
When they're acting in self-defense, you fucker. It's crazy that ICE agents get immunity so they can, rape people and stuff now.
The Washington Examiner that when appropriate...
Renee Good is the kamikaze Karen, by the way, the one that committed suicide by cop.
The administration might take disciplinary actions against ICE agents. So is that a change in opinion? And if so, why the change in tone?
No, I didn't say, and I don't think any other official within the Trump administration said that officers who engaged in wrongdoing would enjoy immunity. That's absurd. What I did say is that when federal law enforcement officers violate the law, that is typically something that federal officials would look into. We don't want these guys to have kangaroo courts. We want them to actually have real due process, real investigation, because again, sometimes they're accused of wrongdoing, and it turns out when you learn the context, they didn't actually do anything wrong. But of course we're going to investigate these things. Of course we're investigating the Renee Good shooting, but we're investigating them in a way that respects people's rights and that ensures that if somebody did something wrong, yes, they're going to face disciplinary action, but we're not going to judge them in the court of public opinion. I've spoken at length on this particular case. I think that Renee Good's death is a tragedy. I also think that she rammed an ICE officer with her car.
Yeah.
So the tragedy here is multi-layered. The tragedy is there was a misunderstanding.
The tragedy is that the liberal media is such a propaganda shit show that they are manipulating mentally ill lesbian Karens to try to run over ICE officers. And they will never face accountability for it. The fact that we have an insurgency spearheaded by idiots in our actual government that will never face accountability for getting their people killed as little human shields.
Tragedy is that Renee Good lost her life. The tragedy is that you have ICE officers who are going into communities where they're worried that if they call 911, no one's going to come to help them. That is what produces this terrible situation, and it's something state and local officials here in Minnesota could solve. Yes, sir.
Could you give us a message towards March for Life tomorrow, especially regarding this cooperation and family values? It's a shame that kids have to get caught up in all this, and towards that, sir.
Well, it is a shame that kids have to get caught up in this. I am speaking at March for Life tomorrow. I'm pro-life, and I'm very excited to speak there. I want to talk about local law enforcement.
Base!
I mean, look, I am, as a child...
I feel like people need to discuss how abortion is murder a little bit more. I feel like it's not happening enough. All right, too many people have accepted abortion as like a totally normal thing to do, that we commit a little mini child holocaust once a year. All right, I feel like it's pretty important to talk about this. It's insane that people refuse to even discuss this. It's like, you're violating the rights of women. You know how? Because they're murdering babies and you shouldn't get involved. Yep.
I saw people in my family get arrested. It's terrible. It's heartbreaking. It's chaotic. It's traumatic for the kids. I can recognize that, and I can recognize that we got to support these kids, while on the other hand saying that just because you're a parent doesn't mean that you get...
Dude, we need to illegalize it. Yeah, I feel like we need to actually start making serious moves. Serious freaking moves. I mean this with my whole heart. We need to absolutely ban abortion, unless it's done for medical reasons. All right? If it's purely an abortion due to convenience, I think it should not be legal. I'm sorry. I don't care. It's murder, in my opinion. But what about a woman's bodily autonomy? Your bodily autonomy doesn't mean you can murder your baby.
Complete immunity from law enforcement. And I think we have to hold both of those thoughts in our head at the same time. We've got to be sympathetic to the kids who are caught up in some of these enforcement actions. We've also got to say we have...
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people are going to disagree with that take. That's my take. That's my personal opinion. You have every right to disagree. Hopefully, we completely and utterly destroy you in some voting point at some point. No offense. I like you as a person. Probably. I just hope you get absolutely destroyed in some vote later on where we decide to save a generation of children.
To enforce the law without bias, with fairness, but we've got to enforce the law.
Mr. Vice President!
There was a class in Taku a few weeks ago, and their mayor said they haven't heard about what's happening in the city, and how the ICE can proactively work with these local agencies. What are really possible, and what's your response to that?
You said there was an altercation in St. Cloud. Yeah.
After the incident, the mayor said that ICE did not communicate with them. They were in the city for a major operation, but police chief did not know about the operation at the time. Could you talk a little bit about proactive communication?
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of the takeaways. I've talked with these guys before we came on the stage, but during our roundtable and some of the other conversations we've had, communication, we absolutely want to ensure there's good communication between federal officials and state and local officials, and I'm sure that we can do better on that. We absolutely want to make sure that we are communicating, but that also requires a two-way street, and that's the point that I make about state and local officials.
Right. We got to work together.
Will absolutely communicate with state and local officials.
They'll
tell
help
people if they have to do an enforcement operation in a particular municipality, but part of that is they also want to ensure that if they're communicating about their whereabouts, that's not being used as a weapon against them. Sometimes they tell people where they're going, and then they find out that their agents' faces are on the, on Reddit or on some...
That's the craziest thing ever. The fact that local law enforcement is just like... is straight up posting and doxing ICE agents and telling people where to run away from ICE agents. Of course they can't tell them what they're doing. They're terrorists, in my opinion. This is unbelievable.
Social media thread saying, here's this guy, we know he's going to be at this place at this exact time. So that communication has got to be a two-way street. These guys are going to communicate with business leaders, with local officials, with state officials, but we also need the local officials and state officials to do a good job of protecting people when they're in their communities. We're not asking, by the way, we don't want any police officer in this community, in this state, to help us do immigration enforcement. We've got that.
I don't know why we're not doing more in regards to arresting these people, or at least getting them removed from law enforcement. It's unbelievable. It's completely unacceptable. Every time you have anything where an elected official tells criminals where the cops are to help them escape, I don't know why they're still literally in positions of power at all. It's unbelievable to me that we need to live like this.
But if a protester shows up and that protester turns violent against our immigration officers, we really, really need the cooperation of our local partners. We haven't gotten it yet, but I think if we do, we really can lower the temperature. Yeah. Yeah, so I saw that story, and the story is like so much that I read in the mainstream media. It's missing a whole lot of context, and when you appreciate the context, it makes sense. No one is saying, look, there are exceptions. For example, a crazy exception, if somebody is fired at from inside a house, they don't need a warrant to go inside that person's house. There are very narrow exceptions to the warrant requirement where law enforcement officers don't need a warrant if, for example, they're an imminent threat of their lives. But what we've said and what ICE has proposed, what the Department of Homeland Security really has proposed in the Department of Justice, is that we can get administrative warrants to enforce administrative immigration law. Now, it's possible, I guess, that the courts will say no, and of course, if the courts say no, we would follow that law. But nobody is talking about doing immigration enforcement without a warrant. We're talking about different types of warrants that exist in our system. Typically what happens, not always, but typically in the immigration system, those are handled by administrative law judges. So we're talking about getting warrants from those administrative law judges. And then, of course, with other cases, you get judges or you get warrants from a judge. That's very consistent with the practice of American law. I'm sure the courts will weigh in on that, but we're never going to enter somebody's house without some kind of a warrant, unless, of course, somebody's firing on an officer or they have to do something in order to protect themselves. Go ahead.
Do you believe that you can forcibly enter with an administrative warrant, or would that be a violation?
Well, our understanding is that you can enforce the immigration laws of the country under an administrative order if you have an administrative warrant. That's what we think. That's our understanding of the law. That's our best faith attempt to understand the law. Again, this is something courts will weigh in on. I won't speak to that. But yes, most immigration law in our country is not done through the criminal system with a judge. It's done through the administrative law system. We're going to continue that practice just as they did in the Biden administration or any other administration.
Was there anything that you heard or saw today that would cause you to talk to the president to invoke the Insurrection Act? And then also...
Insurrection Act. Do it. Do it.
I did not talk to him today. I talked to some of his colleagues. Your question on the Insurrection Act is interesting. I've tried to understand this as well as I possibly could. And my understanding is what the Insurrection Act, what invoking the Insurrection Act would allow the federal government to do is that it would allow the federal government to use the military for local law enforcement operations. Right now, we don't think that we need that. Now, the president could change his mind if things could get worse, but right now, we think that federal law enforcement officers...
Bro, you don't have time! You don't have time! You don't know what's gonna happen in 3 years, okay? Dude, the net negative migration is good, and if we had, infinite time to do this, that would be great. But the next libtard that comes into power is just gonna let in another infinite illegals to steal more elections. Oh my God, lay down the hammer, bro.
can do the job of federal law enforcement. Now, what I do worry about, again, is if the chaos gets worse, if more and more ICE agents start getting assaulted, if other law enforcement officers start getting assaulted, that would be a real problem. But again, we have so much federal law enforcement resources here right now. We have so many people here that we do not want to have here. I do not want so many.
Think about how much tax money is going to waste because these libtard fucks, actual fucks, are showing up and running defense for terrorists. It's insane.
The ICE officers in Minneapolis right now, I mean, good Lord, it's really, really freaking cold outside. But they're here not even to enforce immigration laws, but to protect the people from the rioters. That's an absurd state of affairs, and we wouldn't need it if we had a little bit more cooperation from the Minneapolis Police Department. Again, the Minneapolis Police Department, my understanding is that the actual beat cops on the ground, they would love to help out, but they're being told by somebody.
You know, what are they supposed to do? Like you have a community that's literally run because of a Somali gang invaded our fucking country. Okay, wait, piggies. I'm talking quiet piggies. All right, and the reality is, okay, we have these fuckers that are controlling our elections in specific cities. All right, these 67 IQ fucking retards, bro. All right, they're committing fraud. They're controlling our politicians, and the police are all gonna get fired. Anyone that actually says they support ICE is going to get obliterated by the actual community of inbred fucks. All right. So I feel bad for them. I do. I feel bad for local law enforcement in these cities. I would hate to be them. I would probably quit and join ICE if I was them.
If it's Mayor Frey, they're being told by somebody not to cooperate at all. What kind of a person tells
what is going
their
on?
Local police
True.
Don't protect somebody if they're being assaulted by a rider? It's crazy.
It's almost like they support terrorists murdering ICE agents. What? You mean to tell me that the people that use Hamas-style tactics are running defense for terrorism? There's no way.
And it's got to stop. Yes.
Earlier this week, local law enforcement accused federal agents of racial profiling. Why are there so many U.S. citizens being caught up in these operations?
Well, I think your question assumes something that's not necessarily in evidence, which is...
Damn, bro, you can't get one over on Just Dan's Vance.
...is that when there are American citizens who have been caught up in some of these enforcement operations, very often it is people who have assaulted a law enforcement officer.
That's right.
They're not being...
Everyone's such a retard about this. ICE is kidnapping American citizens. Oh, my fucking God. They're arresting people that attack them, yeah.
Arrested because they violated the immigration laws. They're being arrested because they punched a federal law enforcement officer. That is a totally...
I think we should start arresting them for obstructing justice, too. Just get them all off the streets. You block ICE from doing their duty? Jail. We'll set a trial. We'll give them their due process, of course. Jail, though.
Thing. Now, to the accusation...
Big bail money.
...of racial profiling, you know, look, it's something that we take very seriously.
Racial profiling. You know, can I tell you something? All right, this is going to be the based opinion. I don't know, man. I don't know how, you know, I thank God that Trump is in power and that my YouTube channel wasn't banned yet. Racial profiling is based as fuck. I said it. I'm sorry. I don't want to be that guy. It is actually based. You know, I'm not saying that we should treat people differently based on their race, but we maybe should look into it. For example, if I see a Somali guy in Minneapolis, all right, I would want to see his papers. All right, listen, I would not want to go to, I see some white guy that's clearly been in America for the last 400 years. I'm not going to fucking ask him if he is a citizen because it's a waste of my fucking time. All right, you want to know something that's absolutely true? Racial profiling works. It works, it's efficient, and it's effective. All right, I'm not saying be racist. I'm not saying consider people guilty based on their race, but doing a double look specifically makes sense in specific instances. I'll give you an example. Let's say you're looking for a white serial killer, okay? Would you do a double take and ask the white people, all right, to see their identification? The answer is yes. Of course you would. Obviously you would, because you're looking for a white serial killer. You're not going to ask the black guy for his identification because you're looking for a white serial killer. All right? And it's the same thing here. All right? If they're going after a guy named Coño Abrego Garcia, okay? All right? They're not going to start pulling over white women to see if maybe they're actually that fat Mexican. Okay? I'm sorry. Like, we don't need to play this game. It actually works. Like, it's unbelievable. All right? Like, it's crazy that we need to make believe this isn't true. All right? And it's not racial profiling. It's just profiling. It's just profiling. We don't even need to get into the racial aspect. It's just basic profiling. I am tired, bro. Of course you should profile. Duh! Are we retarded? Did we all come into clown society together to make believe you should never actually profile people? Like, this is the most insane shit of all time. If Irina Zarutska was a little more profiling of a person, she would have picked a different seat in that bus and she might still be alive. All right? I'm just saying. She decided to sit in front of, a guy wearing rags, fucking twitching, all right? If she would have profiled him, maybe she would have picked a different seat. Maybe she'd be alive. But, well, no, we'll never know. We will never know, because she actually was anti-racist.
Seriously, we will take accusations of racial profiling back to Washington. We'll certainly look into them.
If there's racial profiling, like there's arresting Mexicans, I completely agree. That's unacceptable. But if you do a double look at people, get out of here. So fucking tired, bro.
As they come up. But this is not a group that's going around and looking for people who violated the law based on skin color. They're looking for people who violated the actual law, the law of our immigration system in this country. And so long as we had more cooperation, I think they could do these things in a much more targeted way. They would actually know where some of the bad guys are. Again, you hear things that are hard to believe, but I've confirmed that they are true. Sex offenders,
yep,
who we're trying to get off the streets, who the local officials won't tell us their last known address. So then the local officials say, oh my God, these guys are doing widespread targeted enforcement operations, when in reality, we would love to just go to one house. The local officials won't tell us which one house to go to.
Mr. Vice President.
To that question,
yeah, no, I'm just so tired of this, man.
Their own...
Like, dude, the idea that people don't profile is the craziest idea in the world. Literally every single person does it. Every single person does it. All right, people are generally more comfortable around people that look like them. Like, it's just a fact of life. All right, it's a herd mentality, but it is literally just a fact of life. And I'm tired of making believe it's not. It's insane. It's insane.
Off-duty officers, so police officers, are being targeted because they are a person of color and asked to show their papers. Is that a concern of the administration of the Department of Homeland Security? If local law enforcement says their own officers are being targeted and they described it as, quote, civil rights violations in our streets.
So I saw one story about this and one local police officer who said this. And look, certainly is it a concern? Absolutely. The first thing we have to figure out is whether it happened or not. And then if it happened, whether there is a good explanation or a bad explanation. And of course, if somebody violated the law, if somebody racially profiled, if somebody violated the rights of one of our fellow citizens, that is something we will take very seriously. What I also...
Like, it's crazy that we're, like, doing this, man. You know, like, they'll bring this shit up with no evidence. It's like, yeah, it's true that 94% of illegal immigrants aren't white people, but don't you find it a little suspicious that 94% of the people getting deported aren't white people? Wow, that sounds pretty racist, doesn't it?
Would say is that many of the most viral stories of the past couple of weeks have turned out to be at best partially true. So we want to try people based on reality, based on the truth, based on context. We're not going to prejudge people just because of viral social media story that turned out to be half false.
Mr. Vice President, a quick question. About the roundtable you just had, I presume that happened. Did you invite anybody with an opposing point of view to get an idea of why people are upset here? And just as a quick follow-up, have you reached out to Governor Walz at all in an attempt to turn down the tent?
So I haven't talked to Governor Walz on this particular trip. A number of members of our administration, I believe our chief of staff, spoke to the governor and has been in constant contact with his staff over the past week. We've been in my office in constant contact with people here on the ground in Minneapolis. There were certainly people at our roundtable with opposing views, and look, I don't even know, whether it's public, but yes, we met with people with opposing views here at the roundtable. I wanted to get a perspective from everybody, but also, of course, offer my opinion that with a little bit more cooperation, we could lower the chaos. We're going to keep on doing that. If Governor Walz wants to call me, we'll absolutely continue talking. I will say that my sense of this situation, having talked to these guys for a long time, is this is primarily a law enforcement issue. This is the Attorney General, this is the local mayor, this is all of the organs of local and state law enforcement. That's who we focus on, but we've certainly been in communication with the governor and his office as well.
Vice President.
Yeah.
Local law enforcement obviously hasn't been really helping out with the agents who've been assaulted repeatedly. What's the plan if nothing changes there here locally and this operation has attracted thousands of agents? Are there any plans to go into any other cities from here?
Well, right now we're focused on Minneapolis because that's where we have the highest concentration of people who have violated our immigration laws, and that's also, frankly, where we see the most assault of our law enforcement officers. I mean, our plan is very
These people are all just socially conditioned. Like, they don't believe anything.
simple. If you assault a federal law enforcement officer, we are going to do everything that we can to put you in prison. It's very simple. And most of these protesters, as much as I may disagree with their politics, most of them have been...
By the way, there was a Somali cop that murdered a white woman and was freed because of Tim Walz. Remember that?
Peaceful, but a lot of them have not been peaceful. And if you go and storm a church, if you go and insult a federal law enforcement officer, we're going to try very hard. We're going to use every resource of the federal government to put you in prison. Respect people's rights. Respect people's rights to worship. Respect people's rights to do their job without being assaulted.
Yeah.
If you follow that basic principle, the Trump administration is going to do everything that we can to protect your rights. But if you go after somebody, if you assault somebody, if you make a 9-year-old girl cry because you walked into her church and harassed her, we're going to go after you with every single tool that we have.
Good.
Vice President.
Yeah.
That's with NBC News, sir. Your administration has said repeatedly this is about safety, about making Americans feel safer. So what do you say to people who are in Minnesota who say,
dude, I'm so tired of these emotional bullshit questions, man.
Overwhelming presence of ICE officers and federal officers and
You said that you want Americans to feel safe, so the Minnesotans that were manipulated by retards, they say they don't feel safe when ICE is here. I don't care about how you feel, Margaret. All right? I want to make this clear. All right, when he said he wants Americans to feel safer, it's because he wants them to actually be safer, okay? It's not because he just wants them to convince himself that they're safer.
Tactics that are making them feel less safe.
Well, one thing I would say is, first of all, we saw in 2025 the biggest...
Also, a lot of these people don't remember. Trump was elected. He was elected as president to deport the illegals because Americans would feel safer. I don't give a shit about the couple of retards in Minneapolis that don't feel safe when ICE does their job. I don't care.
One-year drop in murders in the history of the United States of America. Significant reductions in violent crime.
Yeah, and the reality is we are literally 20% down on the murder rate. Do you know that there's 20% less murders this year than any other year, like for the last couple of decades? All right, 20% down. It's almost like deporting illegals and arresting criminals actually helps or something. But the reality is that is an insane number. All right, so yes, Americans are factually 20% safer under Trump. I don't care what they feel.
The reason why we have less violent crime is really two reasons. Number one, because we're enforcing the immigration laws and getting very violent criminals out of our country. And number two, because we're enforcing...
You forgot about Renee. She died at the hands of ICE. Yeah, she committed suicide by cop. Yeah, she tried to run over an ICE officer and then got killed in self-defense. Yeah, what about her? What about her? One retard, one kamikaze Karen dies and everyone loses their mind. All right, hundreds of women get raped by illegal aliens and there's literally zero news coverage about it.
Enforcing our criminal laws and putting guys who assault and murder behind bars.
That sucks.
This is part of a broad effort to make us safe. And the chaos that people are seeing, and I understand there is frustration of the chaos, I'd say that we're doing everything that we can to lower the temperature, and we would like federal and local, state and local officials to meet us halfway.
Perceiving it correctly? Are you saying that they're not seeing that it's the tactics or the presence of the officers that are...
Look, I'm sure that people are seeing a lot of things that would make any member of our national community feel very upset, but I also think that if you understand this in context, this is the inevitable consequence of a state and local government that have decided that they're not going to cooperate with immigration enforcement at all.
It's unacceptable.
In fact, they're going to aggressively not cooperate. So here's a basic illustration.
So why aren't they in jail, Mr. Vance? Put him away! Dude, Vance is really cooking here.
To this, if you are an ICE officer and you have to arrest a person who's committed assault and is also an illegal alien, but the state and local officials won't help you identify that person, many of the things that people in Minneapolis are seeing that give them pause, that frustrate them, that worry them, that make them feel like things are too chaotic, many of these things are coming from the fact that there's no cooperation with state and local law enforcement. And I guess what I would tell people, again, many of whom are justifiably concerned and worried about what they're seeing in their communities, is why are we not seeing it anywhere else? We're seeing this level of chaos only in Minneapolis. LA and Chicago,
that's right,
we had some problems there. Pretty much every jurisdiction where these guys are operating, you don't see the same level of chaos. You don't see the same level of violence. You don't see the problems that we're seeing in Minneapolis.
Completely right.
Maybe the problem is unique to Minneapolis, and we believe that
totally
it is.
Correct.
And it's a
look, man, 20% drop in crime, 20% drop in murders this year. That is an insane number. A lot of people don't maybe realize how insane that is, but that is absolute insane. So Americans are factually safer, and if they don't feel that way, quite literally, I could not give less of a fuck about what you have to say. I actually care about our country and our people, and you so obviously don't. Like, under your world, we would have 20% more murders in your world. Why would I want to live in your world?
Lack of cooperation between...
I actually believe that thou shalt not murder is important. And you go ahead, turn around and murder your babies. So quite literally, fuck yourself.
State and local law enforcement and federal law enforcement. Sir.
CNN. ICE has been operating here for years with less pushback than we're seeing right now. And even the St. Paul police chief recently said, is there not a way to find common ground without scaring the hell out of people in the community? Those were his words. And I just wonder, with this Operation Metro Surge, is any part of it meant to send a form of political message to the leaders here in Minneapolis and the state of Minnesota? And I know you talked about you've been in touch with the governor's offices and the mayor's offices, but why have you not been able to speak to them directly? Have they not been willing to do so?
Why would he want to speak to Tim Walz? Like, why would I want to talk to that guy? That guy fucking sucks. Why would I want to talk to Tim Walz?
Well, look, I have spoken to some of the people in Minnesota directly. I spoke to some of them today. I've spoke to others in the past. And again, our staff has been in very direct contact with pretty much every official with any influence or any power in Minneapolis. But no, we're not trying to send a political message. We're trying to enforce the law. And unfortunately, what has happened is that as we've enforced the law, there's been this weird reaction, again, unique to the city. This is not a common thing across the...
I mean, it has been happening a lot. It's been happening in California and Chicago, but it's been happening a lot in Minneapolis.
United States of America. There's been a very unique, very Minneapolis-specific reaction to our enforcement of federal immigration laws. What I'm trying to do here today is understand why that is. What is it about Minneapolis that has become so chaotic? What are the specific types of cooperation?
I personally think it's because of the fraud. I personally think it's because they're touching the fraud, and they know that the moment they actually deport the illegals, now that the fraudsters are out, they're actually going to expose all of the actual government officials that were involved too. And I think the moment they start going after California fraud, which should be next, I think that California is going to do the exact same thing as Minneapolis fighting back against ICE.
That we need. Look, I don't need Tim Walz or Jacob Frey or anybody else to come out and say that they agree with J.D. Vance or Donald Trump on immigration. I just don't need that. What I do
quite literally, I don't care about their opinions. They just need to follow the law.
To do is empower their local officials to help our federal officials out in a way where this can be a little bit less chaotic and it can be a little bit more targeted. Like if we're trying to find a sex offender, tell us where the guy lives. Simple things like that, simple changes in how they're approaching immigration enforcement would make this work a lot better. It would make Minneapolis' streets a lot safer, and it would make this whole thing a lot less traumatic for this community. I'll take one more question.
Mr. Vice President.
Go ahead.
You said that it's time to turn down the temperature. Does that include changes to both ICE and CBP packages?
Oh my fucking god, I hate the media, bro. It's not both sides, all right? Well, you said you want to turn down the temperature, so should both sides stop? Like, should the rioters stop attacking ICE officers and the ICE officers just stop doing their job and arresting illegals? Well, both sides. It's not both sides, all right? There is right and there is wrong. There's good and there's evil, and it's not a both sides issue because good and evil don't get along. All right, this is the most lib-cucked argument of all time. Why doesn't Frodo compromise with Sauron instead of throwing the ring into the fire? Great question. Thank you, reporter.
Less than lethal tactics, pepper spray, pepper balls. Beyond that, what is the federal government's role in turning down the temperature? And the Minnesota Department of Corrections says that its own officers have been cooperating with ICE all along, handing over criminals once they serve their sentences
to ICE officials. Can you concede that there is some cooperation with the state?
Yeah, look, if I was going to list the 5 agencies locally and statewide that I'm most worried about, I wouldn't put the Department of Corrections on that list. I think that while there are certain things we'd like to see more from them, they've hardly been the worst offenders. You agree with that, guys? That's a fair assessment. But I think you talked about tactics and you talked about the response to things. Look, we don't want to employ tactics that... We don't employ the kind of tactics that are only necessary when violence is committed against officers. That is these guys' directive, and that's what we're going to try to do. And again, you see, the president said this a couple of days ago. Whenever you have a law enforcement operation, even if 99.99% of the guys do everything perfectly, you're going to have people that make mistakes. That is the nature of law enforcement. What I do think that we can do is work.
We're going to start giving cattle prods to the ICE agents. They're very good for crowd clearing and herding. We hear that these sheep actually believe in just whatever propaganda they're told, and therefore we will be arming them with cattle prods.
Working with state and local officials, we can make the worst moments of chaos much less common, and all they've got to do is meet us halfway. These guys want to communicate with them. They want to talk to the local business leaders. Many of these guys, many of the people standing behind me are members of the Minneapolis community. Many of the officials that I met today who work in federal immigration enforcement, this is their home. They love this place. These are their neighbors. They want this to work a lot more smoothly. I think that we can get there. We just got to work at it a little bit, and we need some cooperation from state and local officials. The last thing that I'll say is I just hope they give it. This is a beautiful city. I've only been here a few times. I love it. Even in this weather, I love Minneapolis. We could do a lot better. We could do a lot more with more cooperation. The Trump administration, the directive that I got from the President of the United States is meet these guys halfway. Work with them so that we can make these immigration enforcement operations successful without endangering our ICE officers, and so that we can turn down the chaos a little bit, at least.
I don't know why we're even capitulating to these guys. I don't know why we're capitulating to the retards in the streets. Like, you block an ICE officer, you should be going to jail. Like, every inch you give them just means that they're going to try to take another mile.
I think a lot, actually. But for us to do that, we need some help from the state and local officials. We will keep on working with
I do appreciate that they sent in J.D. Vance for diplomacy. This dude came in like a fucking wrecking ball, being like, I'm here for diplomatic reasons. You're all gay, you're all retarded, you're all I don't like any of you. We're working with you, whether you like it or not. We will send in as many people as we need. I'm here for diplomatic purposes. Bro literally cooked these frauds.
Them, and so long as they're willing to work with us, they will always find a partner in public safety and law enforcement in the Trump administration. Thank you all.
All right, that was good. That was actually really good. Yeah, no, he did a good job. Vance is really good. Anyway, so we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I personally, I know. Look, man. People say that I'm too pro-Trump. I'm not. I'll be more pro-Trump if he actually decides to start removing all these illegals with more force. What can I say? Dude, I'm just saying, man. Trump is cooking on foreign policy, and Vance is doing a really, really good job keeping his finger on the pulse of what's going on in America. So quite literally, this is fucking exciting. All right, well, now let's support the illegals to make sure the left can't win any elections for a long time until they completely decide that they don't want to be terrorists. Like, subscribe, and this video was streamed live on kick.com/Nuxanor. See you there. Stay weird, fam.